Hello, everyone. I can see some people starting to trickle into our meeting and our webinar this afternoon. Awesome. Welcome, everyone. We already have over 30 people in here today. We're going to get you to keep rolling in, but the first thing I would like you early attendees to start doing is pull up your chat option at the bottom of your screen. Pull that open, make sure it's on everyone. And we would love to kind of get to know who's on this meeting today. We have really exciting stuff, and we're really talking about planning and really getting into building a successful business in 2025. So, what I would like you guys to do is comment your name, where you're from, and your company. And then maybe add in something if you are currently doing anything this year to work on your business, not just in your business. So, really, since we're focusing on those trends to grow our company, to be successful, go ahead and type in something that you're doing new this year to really work on your business, whether it's strategic planning meetings, working on, improving a workflow, whatever that might be. Go ahead and comment in the chat so we can see who's in here today. Russ, I wonder how many people we're going to have from Australia because we can say good afternoon to most of our United States crew, but good morning to all of our Australian friends as well.
And a very good morning if you're in Perth, because that's about 4 o'clock in the morning for you guys.
Wow, Perth. Yes, good morning. We will keep our enthusiasm lower since you maybe not have had your coffee yet. Yep. Awesome. Thank you guys for popping in here. We got some people from Michigan in here. Awesome. A lot of new ideas about like establishing proper pricing, working on better scheduling. I love to see some of these efforts that are being made. That's really exciting. Improving processes. And for everyone that just joined, we're up to almost 100 people now. We're going to wait just another minute or so to make sure everyone can get into the meeting. If you just joined, please comment in the chat below, uh, who you are, where you're from, your company, and if you're doing anything unique this year to really work on your business this year instead of in your business. So any strategic thinking, any strategic planning, go ahead and throw that in there so we can really see what this group is doing for 2025. All right.
See, we got Simon tuning in from Australia.
Oh, there we go. Love to see it. Some people in Montana. Wonderful. I love seeing where everyone's from and then being able to connect over something like really empowering our businesses for 2025. I like to see it. California, Massachusetts. We were just talking about Boston. Love it. Australia, we have more Australian people. Love to see it.
Oh,
All
there's
right.
Norm.
There you go. Awesome. Okay. Well, we're going to kind of start setting the stage real quick as we get ready. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today, either this afternoon or this morning. But we're really excited to really talk about those critical trends that are really empowering growing your business, really kind of establishing good processes and good techniques to really move your business and really grow your business for 2025. So we're excited today. I'm going to introduce a couple of our guest speakers today. We have Russ Stephens, co-owner of the Association for Professional Builders. Hi, Russ, if you want to give a little introduction to yourself.
Hey, Kate, good morning. And yeah, thanks for having me on. Very excited to chat with you guys today. So yeah, as you say, I'm one of the co-founders of the Association of Professional Builders. So we are a coaching company based in Australia, but servicing residential home builders throughout the US, Canada, New Zealand, and Australia, with operations in those countries as well. And what we do is we help builders with systemizing their building companies, putting in the systems and processes that help them to market better, attract better quality leads, and convert those leads into high margin contracts. And I guess as part of that service that we provide the industry, we also put together an industry report with the help of Buildertrend and CBUSA, where we analyse what's going on in the industry and bring together a lot of data that really does help the industry kind of understand where it's at and where it's trending towards. So I guess that's what we're going to be exploring today.
It will be. Thank you, Russ. We also have Anne from Buildertrend here on the call today. We are going to be kind of diving into a nice parallel of really understanding the trends and the expertise of what Russ is going to share today, but also seeing kind of what we can do in Buildertrend. So, Anne, would you mind giving us a little introduction to you?
Yes, hello. Hi, everyone. I'm Anne. I'm a senior coach here. So I am in our program a lot, and I'm really excited to share tips and tricks that relate to the trends we're discussing today and how you can use tools in Buildertrend to hopefully expand your business and streamline and standardize as well.
Awesome. I love it. I love that we have kind of both perspectives so we can really see of all the things that we have going on with Russ and then really applying them to Buildertrend and then just kind of, really enhancing the partnership that Buildertrend really likes to collaborate with Association of Professional Builders. So I'm really excited to get started today. We're going to be diving into three key trends today, really about what the benefit is of systematizing your processes and how that can really impact profitability, the importance of understanding your financial literacy in your business and really how that can impact your growth overall, and then kind of the most successful builders and what they're doing specifically around planning and how that can be instrumental in your company growth as well. So we're going to kind of go back and forth today, but Russ, I'm going to have you kick it off with our first key trend, and I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, so we obviously collect a lot of data because we're gathering information from over 2,200 builders who answer 118 questions, and what that enables us to do is to really go under the hood and understand what is happening in these residential building companies in a very detailed level. And it also enables us to cross-reference information that we're getting back as well, which with the AI getting better and better, that has really allowed us to do some really deep dives into the data and really understand that a lot of what you hear business coaches tell people to do, get systemized, understand your numbers, plan. These things are now backed up by data to show that the builders that do these things are seeing far better results. And I guess the first key trend that we're going to cover off today is all relating to systemization and the builders that have implemented systems. Now, you probably hear coaches talk all the time about you've got to systemize your building company, you've got to put processes in place. And we all know this is something we should do, but it does take a lot of time, energy, and work. And when we have more pressing things to do, it does tend to get shunted down the priorities. But I think when you actually see the tangible benefit in terms of profitability, it really does help to prioritize that as something you really want to be working on sooner rather than later. And as an example, we've seen over the years now, because this is the 5th year of us compiling this report, but we've seen the builders that document and follow a structured process or structured processes, they always see higher profits. But really the challenge is keeping your systems organized and being consistent in terms of your application as well, because it's all very well creating a process or implementing a system like Buildertrend, but if you don't have buy-in from your team, then you're going to limit its impact. And that's where modern tools like Buildertrend are making operating a building company so much easier for builders. I mean, I'm never going to say it's easy to run a building company, because we know there's a lot of challenges there, but it's easier than it has been in the past. And that's because you've got things like workflows that you can automate. You can systemize and standardize your estimating so much easier now. And you can apply a consistent process to each and every project. And really, that's a key fundamental in business, is to be consistent. Just look at McDonald's. I mean, we might not all enjoy the food that McDonald's produces, but they are consistent with what they produce. So you know what you're going to get wherever you go in the world, and that's equally important for a building company. You know, you've got to be consistent in your deliverables. And I guess as part of this analysis, what we've seen is that Buildertrend is the most widely used project management software within the residential construction industry, and its market share actually increased over the last year as well. So that's why I think it's important to understand that, because you're actually getting information from experts in this area. Now, I guess when we talk about systemization, I also got to drop in the elephant in the room, which is spreadsheets, because spreadsheets dominated our industry probably about 10 years ago. They were used for estimating, project management, lead management, probably just about everything. Everything that they probably weren't intended for, they got used for. But the most dangerous area that we saw spreadsheets being used in, I guess, was estimating, because I mean, we've all heard the stats. I think something like 95% of spreadsheets contain errors, and the last thing you want in your estimate is an error, because as a builder you're going to be the one carrying the can. But interestingly, and we have seen this trend over the years, but in terms of project management, only 10.5% of builders are now using spreadsheets to manage their projects. That is fantastic news, and it really highlights the professionalism of the industry and the direction that we are heading as an industry, becoming more tech savvy and becoming more professional as well. So great to see.
Awesome. Perfect. Anne, I would love for you to be able to kind of highlight some of the key trends of how we can systematize and create consistency by using Buildertrend. And just as like kind of a little bit of a setting stage as Anne is getting her screen up and ready, if you do have any questions, please use our QA feature at the bottom of your screen. This way we can really see those questions and we can make sure that we can go through all of them to get as many as we can in front of Russ. Okay, so just letting you guys know that, please use our QA feature down in the bottom of the screen. Thank you.
And just while Anne's setting that up as well, I'll probably just drop in that over 40% of builders that were surveyed, they actually said in the report or the survey that they needed to systemize their business. You know, over 40%, 4 out of 10. However, only 13% are actually spending time working on their business. So there's a massive disconnect at the moment between the builders that know and feel that they need to spend more time systemizing their business versus the amount that actually are. And I think what this disconnect really suggests is that builders are struggling to implement structured processes, and it kind of suggests to me that maybe they just don't know where to start. So I guess if that's you, or you're just looking to improve your systems, you know, you're certainly in the right place here, learning about what you can implement to get started.
Totally. Feel that. All right, Anne, we'll turn it to you. Is the screen able to get up? And we're not seeing the screen yet.
Oh, okay.
I'll drop, well, just while we're waiting for the screen to share there, I'll just drop in another couple of stats here. The builders that do implement systemized processes, what we actually saw in the data, and this is where we can cross-reference data. We can look at what builders are doing, and we can look at their gross margins and their net margins. And something really interesting came out. We saw that the builders that do have systemized processes, a medium, so an average markup, was being achieved of 25%. But when we looked at those builders that didn't have these processes in place, their markup was only 20%. Now that was the gross. Obviously in business, the most important thing is the net, but that was probably even more dramatic, because in terms of net margin, the builders that were systemized, 8% net, and those that weren't, 5%. That's over 50% increase in net profit. So, if you look at your bottom line, how much money you're actually making in the building company after you've drawn a wage for yourself, and add 50% to that, that's what you could be achieving with a bit of systemization.
That's crazy. And um, what I would kind of like to hit on that, I know we're kind of experiencing a little bit of shared technical difficulties. So we'll kind of keep going through the trends. But one thing that we often hear at Buildertrend um, from custom builders is that, it's really hard to create consistent schedules or consistent processes when, the project is changing all the time because we are so custom and, our customers are coming up with new ideas all the time. So what would you say to a builder that maybe is struggling to create consistencies in a kind of maybe an inconsistent world? What would you say to that?
Yeah, I think it was Napoleon that said no plan survives first contact with the enemy. And we
Okay.
have to accept that in business as well. That doesn't mean we shouldn't plan. We always have to start with a plan. I think Mike Tyson actually said something similar. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. But we got to have this plan in place. And we have to be ready to adapt. And again, this is kind of part of our process. Really, is our ability to adapt. I mean, I think every custom home builder would love it if they didn't have any change orders at all, and the client did all their selections, and then they just were able to execute the plan. That would be bliss. But
Right.
unfortunately, it's not reality, especially in custom home builders. It's a building. It's just a reality. So we have to have the processes in place that allow us to adapt the plan. So yeah, but that doesn't negate the need to have a starting position.
I love that. It's like having that base, it can be so foundational so you can work in the chaos or you can work with ever-changing environments. I really like that perspective there. Um, as we keep going, I know Anne is still working on some of those things, so we'll kind of pivot those to the end of our series today. So Russ, I would love for you to kind of dive into more of really how can financial literacy really impact my company's potential or my company's growth? I would love to kind of hear your trend on that.
Yeah, this is a big one. It's been a big concern of ours for a number of years. It is improving, but very, very slowly. And I guess the realization that we came to once again after studying the data from this year's survey was that a lack of financial literacy is undermining builders' ability to grow safely and securely, because let's be honest, it's easy to grow a building company. You just sign contracts below cost and you can grow. And being new construction, you can actually sustain the cash flow for a number of years before it kind of catches up for you with you. So it's relatively easy to grow a building company. The challenge is to grow a building company safely and securely, which means profitably, which means you're generating net retained profit. Now, the data for the most recent survey showed that a very large percentage of builders simply aren't profitable. And as I say, it's not because they're not winning jobs, they are. But a lot of it is because they don't even realize that they're not going to be profitable when they sign these jobs. And that's because they simply don't track their finances effectively. So what I mean by that is obviously every builder does an estimate at the beginning. They'll look at the plans, they'll calculate the materials and the labor, and that becomes their cost of sale. And but what they don't do is, number one, they don't. Well, when I say they don't, I'm talking probably about 90% of the industry doesn't factor in the fixed expenses. So these are the expenses that appear below the cost of sales. They're your salary as a builder, for instance, rent, fuel, all those kind of things that can't be directly correlated to a job. And they have to be correlated to each project in proportion to how many jobs you're running at a time, how long those projects are going to run for. So that's really important, because when you do that, you can actually understand how much net profit you're going to make at the end of the job, rather than simply calculating a gross profit and then hoping to make a profit. So that's one thing that probably about 90% of the industry doesn't currently do. They use a traditional pricing model of just adding a markup to the cost of sales. But the other thing a lot of the industry simply doesn't do is measure the actuals versus the original budget. So yeah, we can calculate what our best guess about what a job is going to cost us, but then we've got to measure our actual invoices every single month against the actuals, so that we're constantly learning, and we can see very early when a project is going off track. And one simple thing, which is to recalculate the gross margin on a job month by month, that will help you to spot a trend, because generally these projects, they're either gaining margin as you progress through them, or they're losing margin. And if you don't actually analyze this, then the chances are you're actually losing margin. And the reason for that, I think, is because whatever we focus on, that becomes top of mind, and the importance raises. And when you actually see your margin getting eroded, you're far less likely to do a change order for free. You know, you're far less likely to be going the extra mile. You're far less likely to actually tolerate a no-show from one of your sub-trades that pushes the whole job back a week, because that just increases your fixed expenses on that job and reduces your profitability. And when you're far less likely to tolerate that stuff, you become more protective of your margins, and that obviously helps you to become more profitable as well. So understanding your numbers in business, you know, is it's a basic requirement. It's a very important thing to be completely across. But in something like residential construction, where you are dealing with high revenue and low margin in percentages, absolutely critical that you're across this every month, not at year end, not 9 months after year end when your accountant gives you the numbers, but every month. You've got to know these numbers yourself. You can't rely on anyone else to be putting the numbers together for you. You've really got to understand this. And again, the data underlines the importance of this, because the builders who do monitor their project costs in real time, those guys do achieve higher profitability. And the guys that actually produce monthly financial reports, well, I should prefix that by saying the guys that produce accurate monthly financial reports, they have a 6% net profit margin, but those that don't produce any monthly reporting only have 4%. So again, we're seeing a 50% increase in net profit just by focusing on your numbers. I mean, these are the kind of insights that we really got to pay attention to, because it really does show what builders are doing in order to be successful.
I love that. And as you're kind of saying this, I really like how you're saying, the foundation is just knowing your numbers from the beginning, as important of what does your contract look like? What does your estimate look like? So then you can really stack that up against your actuals later, when you're taking in and paying out, you're receiving your money from your customers and everything. What would you say? Because we do believe at Buildertrend too that the beginning of that contract process can be so crucial to the rest of that financial opportunity for your company. Do you have like a top 3 best practices, or like best things that you see from the most successful contracts or some of those most successful builders? What would those 3 elements of a good contract look like?
Yeah, look, if I had to say the top 3, I would say number 1 accounts for probably 95% of success. It's that important. And that is the work in progress calculation. It's so misunderstood. A lot of people think they understand what work in progress is, but it gets confused. And not just by builders either, but also by accountants that are non-construction specific. And that's because this term means different things to different industries. In manufacturing, for instance, work in progress means something completely different to what it actually means in construction. And because of that, a lot of non-construction accountants actually calculate it incorrectly, which leads to the builder's financial reports being incorrect, which if they're in new construction especially, it leads them to believe they're doing a lot better than they are, which results in them paying tax on profits they never made. So it's really, really important to understand what this term means and how you calculate work in progress for your building company. And you do it every month, because unless you're doing it every month, the financial reports that you produce aren't going to be accurate, which means it's worse than not producing the reports, because if you don't produce reports, then you know what you don't, you know that you don't know stuff. But when you produce reports that are inaccurate, you're actually acting on incorrect information. That's even more dangerous. Now, to give you an idea of just how widespread this problem is, only 11.4% of builders truly understand how to calculate work in progress for a building company. Now, the way we came to this realization was we simply asked the question in the survey, do you understand how to do this calculation? About 50% of builders said they did, 50% said they didn't. So, okay, half the industry knows that the financial reports they're looking at aren't accurate. They know that. But the 50% that said they did, we then tested them with a further question in order to see if they really did understand this calculation. And 80% of those builders got it wrong. That means they are looking at incorrect information. That's the real scary thing. So if I had to say, in terms of three things, that would be my number one, and it accounts for like 95% of the problem, because once builders understand this, it leads to changes in their business. First of all, it changes their mindset, because if you can imagine, if you've been working away in your building company, you've been working for 5 years, you've been growing, you've been working hard, but there's never seems to be enough money, to pay the tax bill at the end of the year, or it's always a bit of a struggle and you can't quite figure out why. And then when we show builders how to do this calculation, a light bulb comes on, and it's obvious now. You've shown me, I get it. Why didn't anyone show me this before? And then they start to get angry because they realize they've actually been signing contracts below cost, or not making any money whatsoever.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
And they've got a big hole in their accounts, which doesn't sit well with a lot of people, to be honest. When you've got a builder that thinks they've been successful, you actually show them there's a big hole in their accounts, they don't receive that information too well. And sometimes they just want to push it aside until they get to the desperation point. But when they do understand that there is this big hole, what that does is it changed to a change in mindset, where all of a sudden I'm not doing this anymore. I'm actually going to charge a proper markup, a proper percentage on my jobs. And that leads to the next important shift in financials, which is pricing your jobs correctly. Now, we call this technique pricing for profit. And it's what I alluded to earlier. It's adding a net profit to your jobs rather than a gross markup, which is how most of the industry currently works. So in terms of that, it means you have to understand what your fixed expenses are. You have to understand how they apply to each job you're signing, because if you're signing a contract for a year, the fixed expenses are going to run weekly for 52 weeks, for instance, versus a smaller contract, they're only going to run for 26 weeks. Other things, more complex jobs might mean if you run 6 standard projects at a time, but you take on a more complex one, that reduces your capacity to only run like 3 other projects, for instance. Well, that big job needs a far greater percentage of fixed expenses applied to it, because it's reducing your capacity. So it's understanding that. So we built a calculator that makes it easy for builders. And once they use this calculator, they start to price their jobs accurately from that point forward. So they get the mindset shift from understanding their financials. They then get the tools and the knowledge to actually improve their profitability. And of course, the next question is, well, okay, I know I need to charge more. I know this is what I need to charge, but if I quote that price, I'm never going to win a job, because I've got 3 other builders that are all, maybe they don't have this knowledge, and they think they're making a profit, but they're actually undercutting me. And we know the consumers, if they've got 3 quotes, they might not go for the lowest, but at best they'll go for the one in the middle. And the way we get around that in terms of improving your finances is you've got to change your business model. Design and construct is where it's at. And that means you're taking the client out the market or the prospect out of the market before they go looking for builders. That puts you in a very different position where you can manage the design process, you can deliver a design on budget, because we know, much as we do love architects and building designers, they don't know what builders know in terms of that. They can't look at a drawing and understand what's going into that drawing to come out with a realistic price at the end. They need the help of a builder. So this is why it's so important for builders to be involved in that process, because it does mean that the project will come out on budget. And when you're doing design and construct, and you've been involved in that design process, you'll find that you won't be actually quoting against other builders when it comes to that part of the process, and that is how you get higher margins. So yeah, that would be the three biggest things I would say in terms of finances.
I love that. Well, and it's just, I know we kind of asked that question at the beginning of our webinar today of just how are you working in your business? And I saw a few people saying, I'm trying to talk about my financials. I'm trying to learn how to improve them. It's like, Russ is telling you right now, you have to have a monthly meeting every month to be successful so you know your numbers and you can be successful moving forward. So I really appreciate that commentary there. Um, and going into that of just, understanding your financials, making sure you have processes. Let's kind of move into that third trend because the most successful, for what you found, the most successful builders are planning. What does that mean? How can I be a better planner? How can I plan for success now and success in the future? So, would love to hear your comments on that trend.
Yeah, look, I'm sure we all realise this, but most builders, they do spend too much time on admin rather than working on the high leverage stuff that is going to grow their business. I think it's a trap we all fall into, as business owners, and as well, we can also fall into this trap of not wanting to let go of stuff that we enjoy doing and we feel we're good at. But as business owners, business leaders, we've got to push ourselves outside of our comfort zone all the time, and that means working on new things, learning new skills, and working on things that maybe make us feel a little uncomfortable as well. But again, the data shows that the builders that prioritize strategic planning, they do see way better profits. But the challenge is always, well, yeah, I know I need to do this, but I'm flat out busy. I'm starting at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm getting home at 6, 7 o'clock at night. I'm not seeing my family. I'm too tired to then start working on the business at the end of the day. And the answer is we've got to actually take stuff off a builder's plate that you're spending time on during the day. And one of the biggest things we can do there is through automation. We do have a three-step process that in terms of time management, we get builders to work through, and that is delete, automate, delegate. Now, the first thing is, does this even need to be done? Because a lot of time, as the business grows, we find ourselves doing things that don't even need to be done, or maybe our staff are doing things that don't need to be done, which if we can take them off their plate, we can then hand more of our stuff over. But so the first thing is always to delete. Ask yourself, does it need to be done? But if it does need to be done, we've got to figure out how we can automate it. And obviously with the advancements, first of all, in terms of software platforms like Buildertrend that have brought so much automation into job scheduling, task assignments, cost tracking, etc. But now with AI taking automation to the next level, and obviously, this is where software platforms are actually utilizing AI and building it into the background. So as a builder, you don't even have to worry about it half the time because the software platform you're using is actually utilizing that technology for you. But the more you can take off your plate and automate by using these tools, you can then use that time to focus on working on your business and scaling it rather than getting buried in the paperwork. And of course, there are things that can't be automated. We do appreciate that. We're not quite there yet where we've got one person running $1 billion company. Yeah, I'm sure we'll get there in the not too distant future, but we're not quite there yet. So if you can't delete it, and you can't automate it, then you got to delegate it, and you got to look at your hourly rate. You know what it costs for you to actually work in your business, because you are an employee in your own business. So let's look at it from that perspective, and then let's look at what would it cost to bring someone on in order to take that off your hands and buy back your time. This is the key to growing a building company. It's you've got to be constantly buying back your time. So we've got to understand where our time's going, what it's costing us, to do that. Because really, most builders, they do spend, and this is what the survey showed us, they're spending most of their time working in the business. They're building homes, they're managing daily operations. But in order to get profitable growth in your building company and long-term success, that means you've got to work on your business. And the only way we can do that is through strategic planning, financial management, and obviously implementing systems and processes that allow us to do that. Now, in terms of the first one, 63% of builders do not have a business plan covering the next 3 years, and we've got to have that vision in place. Yeah, we want to understand what we're doing today, tomorrow, next week, for the next month, the next 3 months. But we have to start with that bigger vision. It can be a 5-year plan, can be a 3-year plan. We prefer 3-year, to be honest. A little bit more accurate than pushing out too far. But from that 3-year plan, you work backwards to what's the goal for this year to keep us on track for 3 years. What's the goal for the next 90 days? What have I got to do? And then you break that down further. What's got to be done this month? And then what's got to be done this week? And then what's got to be done today? When you get that kind of clarity, a lot of the white noise tends to go away, because on your notepad, you know exactly what you need to do in your business today in order to reach that goal in 3 years' time. And that really does put everything into perspective about what you might have been working on if you didn't have that clarity. The other thing I would just mention in planning as well is that the median, the average work week for builders is 48 hours, which you maybe, if you love what you do and you can't think of anything better to do, then that 48 hours, that might just suit you just fine. But 48 hours, that is a lot of time to be spending working. And it doesn't have to be that way. We've helped builders to scale beyond that $10 million glass ceiling, and when they get there, they're only working 30 hours a week. It sounds like absolute bliss to run a building company that size and only work 30 hours a week. But the reality is, as you scale past that $10 million mark, you can actually work a lot less hours, because you get systemized to an extent where you've got more people doing work for you. And I guess there is this belief that I don't want to take on more work because I don't want to work more hours, but it's actually the opposite. The more you take on, the more you grow, you can actually end up spending less hours. But I guess coming back to planning, what we're seeing at the moment is only about 13% of builders' time is spent working on their business. So out of that 48 hours, what is that? That's probably 6 hours a week is being spent working on the business. You really want to be spending a lot more than that, or probably at least like 8 hours plus would be an initial target. I mean, ideally, you want to be spending 80% of your time working on your business, but rather than in it. But just having this plan, using organizational charts, spending time on strategy, it all does lead to better profits for builders, and a healthier business as well, stronger business. And obviously, like I say, the only way you can do this is by bringing in the tools that are going to take the admin off your hands and allow you to divert your time to working on these things that are going to really not only change your business, but change your life.
I love that. And I really want to double tap just on kind of, you gave really great tangible physical advice on, while you're thinking about your 3-year, you have to start at the back. and really what that big picture is, and then break it down backwards so that you can really understand what you're doing today. What if you had to recommend someone wants to start this tomorrow, maybe they haven't had time to work on their business, they're working 60 hours, in their business, a lot of time, what would you suggest that they do tomorrow or Friday?
Yeah, look, what I'm going to suggest isn't going to go down well with a lot of people, I'm sure. What I would suggest is you find your alarm clock and you set it for an hour earlier, because the reality is, if you're flat out busy working 60 hours a week, if you start working on your business and start sacrificing what you're doing, something's going to slip through the cracks. And this is what we've found with a lot of builders that we've coached over the years. They knew they had to do this stuff, but they just didn't have the time. Like I said earlier, they're just too tired at the end of the day. So you don't do this stuff at the
Mhm.
end of the day because it's too important. Now, if you're already getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to start work, the answer is simple. You get up at 4 o'clock or 3:30. And a lot of people aren't prepared to do that. And that's great, because that's what makes it so much easier for the 20% that are prepared to do it to succeed.
Yeah.
But this isn't theory. This is all from builders that we have studied, builders that were at the end of their tether. They were on the verge of just giving it all up. They'd had enough. And they decided one last throw of the dice. And they knew that that involved implementing the systems and processes that a lot of them that we've developed for builders. But they couldn't do that because they didn't have the time. So the only way they could do it was by getting up earlier. And we've just seen this from countless builders. And it's not because we actually told them to do it. I wish we'd thought of this 10 years ago. It's what builders actually figured out themselves and then told us this is what they did. They said, I got up at, yeah, because I always ask them, like, how did you get into this?
Yeah.
How did you start? How did you make the time? This is the one of the big objection we get from builders. They don't have time. So we ask the guys that are successful, how did you find time? And it varies. Yeah, it's 3:30, 4 o'clock. That was the key. And they got up and they worked on their business solid without distraction, and then they did the rest of their day. So they worked harder in the short term. There's no getting around that. If you're flat out, then it's going to get harder before it gets easier. But you will start to see results very quickly, especially if you work on the right things in the right order. Because once you start working on things that will buy back your time, very quickly you'll find yourself, you can still get up at 3:30, but now you've got 2 hours to work on your business. Now you're getting some real momentum. Or you can start to dial it back because you've created that window to work on, but you continue buying back your time, and it becomes a gradual process. And it will happen so gradual you won't even realize it. But within a year, you're picking the kids up from school, you're going to after school sports, you're switching off at the weekends, you're not doing the client meetings, you're not putting together quotes at weekends or evenings. You're actually getting your life back. And that might seem like a dream, an impossible dream for a lot of builders, but it is a reality, but not if you carry on doing the same thing as you did before, which really is the definition of insanity.
Yeah. I mean, that's so right. And I really like that statement of just buying back your time. Like right now, yes, it's going to be a lot, it's going to be hard. But once you do that, you're going to see the reward and you're going to see that time back, not just your money in your account, but your time back in like your life. So I
Yeah.
really like that statement right
I just
there.
seen a comment from Andrea. Future sounds wonderful, getting your life back by simply getting up earlier. And what I'd add to that as well, I think business coaches, they kind of get a bit of a bad rap in terms of like, yeah, just do what I say and not as I do. I've done this myself as well in the past. I've gone through different phases with different businesses where, had to put in more energy and more effort. So yeah, I know what it's like to be working flat out and then like just dig deep and go that bit further. But the results, we've seen them, we've documented them as well. It does work. So if you find yourself in that situation, dig deep. You won't have to do it for too long, but it
Hmm.
will change your life.
It's not only good business advice, it's good life advice. I feel like I'm just going to put some sticky notes up on my mirror and think all the nuggets that you hit on today. Um, are you ready to dive into some questions now?
Yeah, love to, love to.
Okay. Awesome. So Kelly is asking for a little bit of advice. They're a small custom builder and they're struggling with determining if software is the right next step for them. As they've been doing their research, we have some resistance from clients or subs getting involved in a platform like Buildertrend. So what are your thoughts and your advice on like when is the right time and how do I maybe set expectations or those relationships with those important people in my
Yeah.
business?
Okay, well, the right time was just before you started your building company to get this all in place. But the next best time is today. You're never too small. We hear this from a lot of builders, especially in the US, interestingly. I noticed at IBS, we had a lot of builders come up to us and say, yeah, I'm only small, like 6, 8 million, 10 million a year. And it's like, this is a decent sized company and you really should be earning a lot more than you're currently earning. So Kelly, I'd say, first of all, you're not small. You've started your business and hats off to you for actually creating a business and getting it rolling. But you've got to put systems and software in place immediately. The beauty, I guess, of what we do is when we started coaching builders 10 years ago, we would do workshops. We'd have builders fall off their chair laughing at us when we'd said, you should be making 10% net profit. They thought that was hysterical, that no one makes 10% net profit. Now it's becoming more widely accepted. In the most recent survey, 73% of builders now expect to make 10% plus net profit in the year ahead. But the point I was going to here was the big shift that we've seen is from the old school builder mentality to a new mentality of younger builders, where they come into this industry and they're so open-minded that they take on systems and processes and they pretty much take on advice and they go and do it without second guessing themselves. And they see results so quickly, it's just off the chart. Now, with the older guys, we find they're a bit more cautious. We might give them advice and they're a bit hesitant. And they get there eventually, but a younger guy will outperform them so much faster because they just do it. And a lot of that is because they are implementing software. They're implementing systems right from the start. We get guys actually come to us say, I'm starting my company and I want to get things done right from the start. So I want to join APB because I don't want to make the same mistakes as I've seen other builders make. So just to underline that, Kelly, you're not too small. The right time for systems and processes is right now. And as you implement tools like Buildertrend, you'll actually be able to buy back your time. And when you see the value of that time, you'll realize that the amount you're investing in these tools is nothing. Even things like ChatGPT, for instance. There's a lot of people using a free account on ChatGPT when it's $20 a month for a paid account. The return you get on that $20 per month by having it for each and every one of your staff is off the chart. So don't hesitate. Commit to those systems. It will make you more profitable and it will help you grow.
Love that. We have a couple questions, some from Amanda and Jason, more about the work in progress formula and just kind of like really what goes into that. So then you can find success with using that month to month and really understanding where
Yeah.
you are.
Cool. Okay, so the work in progress calculation, first of all, if you are doing cost plus contracts, this won't apply to you because in a fixed price contract, you've got your purchase invoices come in for the month. You then invoice the client based on those purchase invoices. So what is happening is your sales invoices are always in relation to your purchase invoices. Therefore, your accounts are accurate as long as you invoice within the same month. Now, I wouldn't recommend cost plus, by the way, because the data shows that the builders that do fixed price contracts earn much better margins, both gross and net. But that's another story. In terms of this WIPA calculation or the work in progress calculation, so now we understand that there is a relationship between the sales invoices and the purchase invoices. Let's think about what normally happens on a fixed price contract. You take the deposit, 5% for instance, you then get the slab down, maybe we're at 25% at this point. So $1 million contract, we've invoiced the client $250,000. Now, if we're on, say, 20% margin, 25% markup, 20% margin, that would equate to $50,000 profit on that $250,000 that we've invoiced the client. However, when we look in our accounts, unless we have $200,000 of purchase invoices in there, our gross profit's going to be inflated. And because of the way the industry works with new construction, we front load jobs, nothing wrong with that, helps cash flow. Sometimes invoices are a bit slow coming in, the concreters, a little bit notorious for not getting their invoices in quickly. That could mean that we've only got maybe $50,000 of purchase invoices at this stage in our account. So we go into our accounts program and we see that we've made $200,000 gross profit. And we know that's not right, so we tend to ignore it. And then what do? We look at the cash in the bank as a guide to how we're doing. Very, very dangerous, because that cash is inflated as well. It's other people's money is owed with that cash. So is that clear so far on where the problem comes from? Now, what work in progress does is it corrects that difference in our accounts. And what it looks for is the difference between what we've actually been invoiced, which was $50,000, versus what we would have been invoiced in a perfect world scenario, or if we've been doing a cost plus contract, which is $200,000. So the difference is $150,000. So we end up with a journal in our cost of goods sold where we might have the $50,000 purchase invoices that we've actually received, but then we'll have this journal for work in progress, adding another $150,000, taking our cost of goods sold to $200,000. Now our gross profit shows in our accounts as $50,000, which is correct as per our starting margin. Now that's a very simplistic overview of what this does. We have a calculator that we built that actually enables builders to put all their jobs in, and it calculates each job one by one and gives them a total for their bookkeeper to journal in. But hopefully I've been able to explain that in a way that's makes sense to the builders on the call.
I think so. We have a lot still in the queue, so I'm going to do as many as we can before we hit that hour mark.
Cool.
Could you please, Taylor, provide some insight on how you justify additional costs associated with business growth, such as overhead, marketing, operational enhancements, etc., without causing the clients to really reject those proposals because it's perceiving a higher price?
Right. Well, the typical fixed expense ratio for a building company is around 15%. That's the reality. Now, that might sound high if you're not investing or paying yourself a market wage and investing in marketing and advertising, because those two things, they account for more than half of that 15%. But that is the reality, and that is pretty much what you should be aiming for as a ballpark. Now, as you scale up a building company, you're going to hit what we call the S-curve, and that means your net profit percentage will drop as you put on more resources, as you alluded to, as you scale up temporarily, before it then allows you to go to the next level and comes back again. So your fixed expense ratio, when that drops, might go up to something like 18%. Now, I wouldn't say that you necessarily want to build that into the contract price so that you're working on a higher margin at those points in your growth journey, unless, of course, you've got sufficient demand that allows you to actually do that. So you might take a hit on your net profit margin as you're going through this growth journey. But I would probably suggest that maybe you're running a bit lean. Maybe you've been hearing this, you're running a bit lean and you're thinking, well, if I need to put all these things in place, it's going to actually inflate the contract price that I charge my client. How can I justify it? Well, first of all, you don't have to justify it, because you're not giving them a breakdown of your cost. The moment you do that, you're focusing your client's mind on the price, and you're giving them negotiation points to actually talk about. You give your client one price. That's all you give them. You might give them options to have add-ons, and if you know you're over budget, you might give them options to bring the price down, but you don't give them a breakdown of your expenses or your bill of quantities. You never do that. Think of the car industry. They do this really well. Yeah, can you imagine going and buying a high-end car and getting a breakdown for what the tires were and the wheels and the radio? Like, I can get that radio cheaper, and I can get these tires cheaper. You don't want to do that. They give you one price. They give you options to add on as well.
Awesome. Next, I have one about how many project managers are you seeing on staff to break the $10 million mark?
Oh, now this is a really interesting question, because what we've found over the years is that building companies are just set up in multiple different ways. And we haven't been able to just create a template and say, okay, this is what you need to get to for a $10 billion building company. And a lot of that is to do with the builder's own strengths and weaknesses as to how they might plug a gap and how they might set up. And it obviously depends on the skill set as well, and how you've got it structured, because you have your project manager, then you've got your supervisors, etc. Some people might use like a leading hand carpenter as a supervisor. So it's extremely difficult to I guess answer that question, because it will depend on the roles and responsibilities for that project manager. And the more roles, because some companies are set up where they might be involved in the estimating, for instance, whereas others might have a dedicated estimator. So it's a very difficult thing to give a general bit of advice on. We'd need to actually have a look at your company structure, where it is right now, where you want to go, and then understanding the strengths and weaknesses of your team as to how that gets built out as you grow. So sorry, it's a bit of a vague answer, but I wouldn't want to lead anyone down the wrong path.
Yeah, there's no perfect number. It's more of just where's
No.
the company going and what is your structure and where are the
Yeah.
responsibilities of those people to make that happen. So that
And it
makes sense.
applies to all aspects as well, because a lot of builders are very good at sales and they don't like to let that part go. Other builders hate sales. So it's like, when do I bring
Yeah.
on a salesperson? Well, it kind of depends. Like, what do you enjoy doing? Yeah. We're looking for builders to work in their area of genius and doing things that they enjoy doing, and getting rid of the stuff they don't enjoy.
Yep, totally. And so there's a few questions left. However, I think I can kind of summarize them together a little bit, leading into kind of potentially your final remarks, just really kind of like the top three things to take away. The last few individuals are really just kind of asking around what are the key things that I need to be successful from a project management software, regarding improving my client communication, improving my cash flow, doing all just doing all those things to make me successful so I can have, growth in the future. What would you kind of summarize as those top three things that you're going to need to look for in a successful tool, project management software, um, to improve these
Cool.
operations?
Okay. So in terms of actually things, if we take job scheduling is incredibly important. In order to price your jobs accurately, you've got to do the schedule before you actually, or while you're actually quoting the job. And again, it's just a plan, but you have to understand the timeline to understand the fixed expenses that go against it. And then once you've done that timeline, obviously before you sign the contract, you're going to put a bit more meat on it, get it more accurate. Then you've got to set a baseline, and then you've got to measure yourself against it. And when you do that, you actually see where the gaps are. Some things you might not have allowed enough time, others you're picking up a day or two in which you can refine it. So that will help you improve no end, because when you do a post-project audit, you look at your timeline, what actually happened versus the baseline. Exactly the same with your estimate as well, because if you want to improve your cash flow, the thing to focus on is to improve your profit, because when you improve your profit, especially in new construction, then your cash flow is just the problem will solve itself, in all honesty. When you're in remodeling, it's a little bit different, because that does suck up cash. It's a slightly different business model, but again, it will come down to profitability and net retained profit. So to do that, set your estimate, a bit like your job scheduling. You've got to set your baseline, set your estimate, and then you've got to measure your actuals versus that, and learn. Feed that information back to your estimator, learn as you progress. And in terms of client communication, well, it's your selections. So Um, Obviously, in Buildertrend, you've got the ability to communicate with your clients directly, to document their selections. That when you get everything documented in a timeline that's visible for both parties, a lot of the problems go away. I mean, you can build on that by proactively communicating each week throughout the build as well. You tell them what happened in the week just gone, what's going to happen next week. That will keep them off site. So proactive communication. But the documentation of selections and every discussion related to the project, that will help your business no end. So
I
yeah,
love
was that
that.
helpful?
I think so. I mean, I took a lot, and I'm not an everyday contractor, so this is great. Um, we are going to have a ton of resources that we're going to send out to everybody after this webinar through an email, I believe tomorrow or Friday. Russ, thank you for all of your, insight and just it's not just insight that you're providing, it's the data behind it. So we're going to be able to send, I believe that's going out, the Sourcey report. We're sending that out to everybody, right? The
Yeah,
continuous
there's
findings.
there is a saucy report. I mean, do we have a link we can maybe pop in the chat for
Yes,
the guys to
I think
download?
so.
Yeah,
Yep. And if it's not
yeah.
in this chat, we'll make sure it gets in that email. But we also are recording this, so we'll send out the recording as well. And even though we didn't get to some of the demoing aspects of Builder Trend and kind of how it relates to everything Russ was saying, we'll get some videos together so we can send that out to you so you can see how it kind of parallels with the different aspects that Russ was talking about. But I know we're right up at the hour. Russ, thank you so much. I hope you have a great day since it's morning there, 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. now. Yep.
7 a.m. It's a beautiful morning looking
I
out
love
over
that.
the Pacific Ocean right now. Clear blue sky.
I love that. I am not looking at that right now. So, well, I hope everyone has a really great rest of the day and a great week. Russ, thank you for everything about preparing us for our company's growth in 2025 and beyond. And we'll send out follow-up information right after this. Okay.
Thanks for having me, Kate. Really enjoyed chatting with you, and thanks to all the builders that joined us as well. Really appreciate them taking time out of their day to join us.
Yep. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone. Have a great day.